Sopranos has sued New York's Metropolitan Opera for breach of contract and other violations related to its decision to drop her after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Here's the BBC's Kat Weiner.
Anna Netrebko had been singing with the Met for 20 years when Russian troops invaded Ukraine in February 2022. Under pressure from the opera company's manager, the star, who'd previously made pro-Kremlin comments, did condemn the invasion. However, she stopped short of denouncing President Putin and was forced to withdraw from dozens of scheduled appearances. Ms. Netrebko is now demanding $360,000 in lost fees and for what she calls severe mental anguish. The star has continued to perform outside the United States.
You'll find more of these stories at srnnews.com.
The following program is sponsored by the law offices of Patrick L. Smith. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. Get ready with your legal questions and call Patrick now. 877-943-9673. Again, that's 877-943-9673. The law office is open. And now your host, Patrick Smith.
Good morning, Florida, and welcome to another edition of the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. I'm your host, Attorney Patrick Smith, and we're with you for the next hour to answer all of your legal questions. 877-943-9673. 877-943-9673. That's your live and local studio line to be part of today's show. If you have a legal question or comment on something we're discussing, you are welcome to call in and talk with us. We'd love to hear from you today. The whole gang here today. We have Yumika, the producer, Brian, the call screener, and Lexi, the intern. 877-943-9673. Or as always, email me, Patrick at attorneypatricksmith.com. Patrick at attorneypatricksmith.com. Or submit your question directly through the website as well, attorneypatricksmith.com. For those of you out there wanting to watch the show, don't forget you can log on to Facebook and check us out. Just search Attorney Patrick Smith and you'll pick up the live feed. You can also watch it live on Instagram at the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. So lots of topics today to discuss. We'll see if we actually get to everything we've got lined up and prepped for today. But I want to start with an update on the STR, short-term rental controversy that has been in development in the city of Indian Rocks Beach, because as of August 1st, we have a new city ordinance in effect regulating short-term rentals in the city of Indian Rocks Beach. I'm holding in my hands the 25-page ordinance and went through the ordinance and found several of the kind of key highlight provisions. The meat and potatoes of the ordinance seems to be regulating occupancy rates. And there is a registration period, and I'm not even sure this was in change, but it's underlined like it was a change. So the vacation rental registration is valid now for 1 year. And apparently you have to reapply for registration after the first year. There is also a new regulation on the maximum overnight occupancy. Now, this does have a differentiation. If you're in one of the, what they call the CT zones, the CT zone as opposed to the S zone, which is the single family zone area, and the CT zones are the commercial tourist area. So if you're in the commercial tourist area, the maximum occupancy rate is now limited to 2 persons per bedroom, and bedroom is specifically defined in the ordinance, by the way, but I won't bore you with that definition. Plus, 2 additional persons may sleep in a common area, regardless the number of bedrooms in or on the property. The overnight occupancy shall not exceed the number of 12 overnight occupants. So 12 is the cap now on the occupancy in the commercial tourist zones, in the single family or the duplex zoning area. The maximum overnight occupancy, 2 persons per bedroom, plus 2 sleep in a common area, but the maximum number regardless is 10 overnight occupants. There's also some new regulations about decibel levels and parking regulations. 1 on-site parking, this is for single family space, per bedroom. So 1 space per bedroom within each dwelling unit. So that's going to be limiting the amount of street parking in theory, which has been an issue. But with any good new piece of legislation, of course, comes challenges. And there have been a flurry of lawsuits filed against the city of Indian Rocks Beach. We'll keep tracking those for you as regards in reviewing them. And again, a special shout out to my senior paralegal, Becky, for doing some last minute research this morning. The gist of a lot of the lawsuits so far seems to be a takings angle, claiming that these new regulations capping occupancy or somehow the government taking the property by limiting the use. That's the general sense, but stay tuned. We will continue to track this for you, those of you out there in the Attorney Patrick Smith Show listenership. So stay tuned for how those cases develop and how the implementation occurs. When I was speaking to a City of Indian Rocks Beach official, they did inform me that they do plan to implement it, and they're sort of going to phase it in, was the phrase used. So stay tuned for how the implementation plays out versus how the litigation plays out. So still lots of unanswered questions with regard to short-term rentals in the City of Indian Rocks Beach. If you have a question, 877-943-9673, or if you have a comment on the short-term rental controversy, you're welcome to call in 877-943-9673. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show, and I'm your host, Attorney Patrick Smith. All right, we're going to go to our first caller of the day. Let's go to Tampa, and we're going to talk to Anthony. Anthony, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
So, hi, I have a question about a property that looks like it's abandoned, and they have like a jet ski all the way on the side of the road, practically almost at the road. And is that something that can be like legally recycled and without having any legal issues, or do I have to do some kind of research on it?
All right, so let's back up. So the indicator to you that the property was abandoned was that there's a jet ski by the road.
Oh, it's like it's not even a working. It's just a gutted, completely, like, I just want to recycle the hull.
You want to recycle the house?
The hull of the jet ski.
Okay. So I think first thing I would do is send a letter to the property owner, and you can look that up in the public record to see who the owner of record is, and see. So I mean, just look it up by address, and the property's in Hillsborough County.
Yes.
So go to Hillsborough County Property Appraiser, type in the address, you'll find out the owner, drop them a letter, and say, hey, I'm interested in acquiring this property. And maybe they'll sell it to you. Now, an adverse takings thing, that's going to be a little tougher challenge, and you're probably going to need counsel to walk you through that. And there's all kinds of rules about how long that takes, but it's probably just going to be way simpler to approach the party about buying the property at a bargain just to take it off their hands if they're obviously neglecting it.
Okay. Gotcha. So basically just Hillsborough and county appraiser, and then go from there.
Yeah, and if you feel like you need an attorney to help you with that acquisition, just let us know, Anthony.
Perfect. Gotcha. Thanks a lot.
What station are you listening on?
Let me see. 102.5.
The Bone. All right, Anthony, we appreciate you and all the other Bone listeners out there this morning. You have a great Saturday, okay?
Thank you. You too.
All right. All righty, this is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. I'm your host, Attorney Patrick Smith. 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673 to be part of today's show. For my early crowd, let me give out the office line for those of you wanting to schedule appointments, 877-754-6764. And there are lots of you. 877-754-6764. So to schedule appointments at any of our office locations, Clearwater, Sun City Center, where we've recently added a whole nother batch of appointments to accommodate the demand there. Down in Sarasota as well, you can schedule by dialing 877-754-6764, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And any member of my friendly staff will be more than happy to get you scheduled for your meeting with me, yours truly, Attorney Patrick Smith, to talk to us today. 877-943-9673, or email me, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. And before we transition to our next topic, let's go to Port Charlotte, and we're going to talk to Mike. Mike, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Sure, Mike.
My question is, we lost our pool cage during the hurricane last year, signed a contract for a new one December 22nd of last year. in the contract, it states that it would be completed within 18 to 28 weeks. Never had any communication from the company during the time. I would text them occasionally to get an update. The update was always, we're a month out, we're a month out. 28 weeks came and went. On the 29th week, I started trying to call and text the owner. He ghosted me for a week. And then I finally sent a text threatening to call the Better Business Bureau, get an attorney involved, so on and so forth. He answered right away and said, no need to threaten. I basically told him at that point I wanted to get my $8,000 deposit back because I didn't trust him since he wouldn't answer my calls or give me any updates. He said, no problem. I'll send you out a letter of cancellation detailing the expenses we've spent so far. That kind of threw me for a loop. But then when I got the letter, because he mentioned permit and engineering, but then when I got the letter, not only is he trying to deduct permit and engineering, he's trying to deduct an account setup fee, a restocking fee. There were 3 or 4 weird fees to the total of $2,000 out of the $8,000 I put down. My feeling is he voided the contract when he didn't complete the work on time, and I'd like to get a full refund. Like your opinion.
Do you feel like he was not transparent with you?
Very.
Do you feel like you could see right through him?
Not at the beginning. He came with great references and a high rating with the Better Business Bureau. So up until closer to the end, I felt pretty good about the whole situation.
All right, I'm out of screened and enclosure puns, Mike, so I have no choice now but to answer your question and give you advice, okay? All right, so the short answer is it sounds like he's not in violation of the contract. He has not, so the term of the contract, and for him to perform the duties, that has not expired yet, correct?
No, it did expire. I didn't start threatening and calling him until after the 28th week.
I got you. So I think that you're perfectly within your rights. Without seeing the contract, though, I can't confirm for sure, Mike. So if you want a free review of that contract, just give me a call at the office. I'll take a peek at it and tell you whether or not you're in your rights. If you have a dispute with him over some of those fees, it's going to come down to whether or not in that contract you agreed to allow him to keep those fees should the contract be canceled. So if you agreed to it, you're probably stuck. If you're not in agreement with it and the contract doesn't speak to it, I think it probably goes in your favor, and you have a right to maybe say something in a demand letter to him that I dispute owing you these fees as the contract did not agree to this. But I think you need the contract reviewed with an attorney to make sure you respond most efficiently. It's not going to be worth, how much total is he trying to keep of the 8,000?
2,000.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a sizable sum and it's worth looking into. It's not going to be worth, declaring World War III over unless there's an attorney's fees clause in that document. If there's a good attorney's fees clause that says, should a dispute arise, the prevailing party gets attorney's fees, then it could be worth your time even more so to hire counsel, go after the business owner for improperly keeping these funds. But I think you need to review the contract with an attorney so you know kind of what the contract says and what it doesn't say.
Thanks. The last piece I left out is I did put the $8,000 down on a credit card, and I did put that into dispute shortly after I received the cancellation letter. Of course, they took my side down, and now they've sent it over to him for his side. So I guess I'm trying to work it from all sides. In case I'm not successful on one, I have another way out.
All righty. Well, Mike, give us a call back if you get progress there with the credit card company for sure. Otherwise, just call the office line and get me the contract. We'll take a look at it with you and see what it says, okay?
Awesome. Thank you.
Mike, have a great day. What station are you listening on, Mike?
The Bone.
All right. We appreciate you, Mike. Have a great day, okay?
See you. Bye.
All righty. 877-943-9673. The Bone crushing it today with the callers. 877-943-9673. And a special shout out to our board operator over at the Bone, Isaiah. We don't talk about Isaiah enough, but hey, you're over there and he's working hard. We have so many people behind the scenes working on the show. We got Vern down in Sun City Center, and I think we have Doug. I'm not sure who my board operator is over in Polk County now on 90.3, but there's lots of them, and we appreciate all you guys working hard to get us on the air every Saturday morning. 943-9673, 877-943-9673. That's your live and local number. And we're going to talk to Martin in Sarasota. Martin, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Good morning. Enjoy the program.
Oh, thanks, Martin. How can we help?
We have two questions on trusts. We're looking to put that together. One, I'd like to have a definition of probate and what's involved in probate. Everybody says if you get a trust, you avoid probate, but I don't know the scope of probate and what it involves and how much you save to get the trust. And secondly, once you have the trust and you need to put the property in the name of the trust, what's involved in doing that at the county level?
So I think to go back to your first question, a definition of probate, the way I define it is it's the court supervised transfer of assets from a deceased person's name to the appropriate living beneficiary. All right, I'll repeat that one more time in case you're taking notes, Martin. Court supervised transfer of assets from a deceased person's name to the appropriate living beneficiary. To create
Does it take a long time?
It depends. I mean, I know that's a lawyer's answer, Martin, but it really depends on facts and circumstances. I mean, if it's an estate where there is a will, there's one beneficiary, there's not much in assets, it can be relatively quick. And by relatively quick, I mean, 3 or 4 months. And if it's a formal probate, I think on average those range in the 6 to 14 month range. And formal probates kick in when you have assets in excess of any exemptions over $75,000. And when you look at fees and cost and everything, those range in the range of 3 to 10%. And like I said, the time is 6 to 14 months, but it also depends on the county. I mean, the probate dockets look very different from county to county. Like think about the probate docket in the counties where the villages are located versus a more rural county like Escambia or Columbia County. So it comes down to the nature of the docket, the nature of the facts and circumstances, and what other element do you think might lengthen a probate?
Well, I don't know. I would think the transfer of the property is the biggest thing. I guess if you have complicated assets like rental properties, and that could even make it more complex. But we're pretty simple. We just have a home. But I think, when you pass away and you have heirs, you'd like to make it easy for them to get the property sooner than later. And so I guess a probate really saves a lot of money and time is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think having a trust can avoid probate with the assets funded properly into the trust, which is part 2 of your question. And the answer I was looking for, by the way, Martin, was a contest. If someone decides to challenge, that'll obviously lengthen the probate. I mean, it can take decades if they decide to fight it long enough, and that's not typical, but it can definitely lengthen the probate process if a contest were to break out. So you create the trust, and then you typically draft a deed pursuant to Florida Statute 689 that would convey the property to the trust, and that's how you would fund your property into your trust.
How complicated is that? Do you do that with the county and file a form? You have to go down there or whatever. Is it a complicated process or pretty simple?
So I recommend hiring an attorney anytime you're transferring any real property, but especially if that real property is your homestead, because it needs to be given special recognition in the deed and in the trust receiving it. So I think it needs to be handled very carefully. And then, you can record it with the county before you pass away if you want to, just to make it public early if you like. And that'll usually cost, it depends on the county, but it's usually around $20 in recording costs to publicly notice everyone that the property has been funded in the trust. But I think it's in the trust the second you sign it, it's sealed and delivered to you. So that's my answer.
I see. So in other words, when we meet with you and I don't know your fee schedules, I guess they're online. We looked at them at one time. We meet with you. We set up the documents and that sort of thing. Do you handle the processing with the county, or maybe the processing with the county isn't even necessary? Is what you're saying, right?
It's up to the client. Some clients want to rush out and record right away. I think it's a question of whatever that client wants. And if you want our help with getting it recorded, great. We'll mail it in and then it'll get mailed back. Some clients don't like the idea of it possibly being lost in the mail, although I haven't seen that. But some clients want to take it to the county themselves, record it, get it doc stamped, and walk out of the door with it in their hand doc stamp just for peace of mind purposes. My point is, Martin, it's just a matter of whatever's going to make the client happy. There's no wrong answer.
Okay. And the whole process, I think, from your side, legal fees and that sort of thing is less than $1,000. Am I pretty accurate on that?
Well, my fees are published. They're all on the website, and we talk about them here on the radio show frequently. So my standard non-tax, meaning in a state of less than 12.9 million, trust package, which includes the trust, pour over will, power of attorney, healthcare surrogate, living will, deed for the homestead properties, a flat fee of $695.
Wow. Okay, you'll be hearing from us. I appreciate the information. Thanks so much.
Martin, we appreciate you. What station are you listening on?
We're in Sarasota, Bradenton. I'm not quite sure what one that is, but it's 9:30
9:30
a.m.
AM 9:30. We appreciate you. Have a great day. Okay, Martin?
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye. All righty, this is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. 877-943-9673. That's your number to be part of today's show. 877-943-9673. Give us a call now. We're live and local. Happy to help any way we can. You can reach me by email, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com. All right, Lexi, get geared up because I'm going to take Todd's call, and then you're already so amped up. All right, great. All right, let's go to Todd in Venice. Venice, Todd, how can we help you today?
Hey, Patrick, first time caller, but actually an existing client of yours. Had a question about a vehicle trust and just curious your thoughts on whether or not it was necessary to put specific vehicles in a trust for just maybe protection purposes or liability purposes, especially with new vehicles or young drivers.
So can I just first of all compliment your taste in lawyers?
I hear you.
All right. So if we're talking vehicles, a lot of times, the big concern is whether or not you put the day-to-day runner, the A to B car, in your family trust. And a lot of clients want the car to avoid the probate process, which putting it in the trust does. But obviously having it in the trust potentially opens it up to litigation and liability, because if that automobile is owned by the trust and in an accident, then it's pretty easy to sue the trust. So when it's an automotive collection or a rare antique car, sometimes clients do automotive trust, which will be designed basically to hold just the automobile and transfer the automobile alone, but it sort of, limits the liability there by having it isolated into its own trust potentially.
Gotcha. Okay, so kind of hearing you say is if it's vehicle value's not there, or if in my case I have a driver who just turned 16 that will be using one specific car for liability purposes, you don't think that's necessary to put that individual vehicle
I would
in its own trust?
So yeah, and I can relate to that because I have a 17 soon to be 18-year-old son. So I understand the concern you have. I think the best way to protect yourself there, from my perspective, is to go out and get with your insurance agent and make sure you're properly and amply insured. Go and get a good update on your auto policy and maybe consider adding a good umbrella and adding whatever policies you can to insure yourself to the hilt while you have that minor driver.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. Be a good conversation. Now, what station are you listening on down in Venice, Todd?
Bone. Yep.
All right. We appreciate you. So, Todd, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
Have a great day. All righty. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. 877-943-9673. 877-943-9673. Todd hanging up does open up a line. So if you've been trying to get in, give us a try now. 877-943-9673. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show, and I'm your host, Attorney Patrick Smith. And we have open phone lines. So give us a call now with your question. And while your calls are getting queued and screened, we're going to turn it over to Lexi, the intern, because Lexi, what was your assignment this week for show prep?
I was specifically looking at the United States of America v. Donald Trump indictment case, specifically with Georgia.
It is the hot topic right now. It seems like every time we turn around, former President Trump is getting indicted. And it also seems like every time he gets indicted, his fundraising seems to skyrocket, apparently. And so I guess, Lexi, give us sort of the 30,000 foot approach, more about where we are in the indictment count process, because this is not the first indictment that President Trump has faced. It's actually what number?
This is the fourth.
This is the fourth indictment. So I think he's going for a record. And amongst former presidents, he may already have the record, right? So tell us specifically in this fourth and newest indictment, what is the former president being charged?
So specifically, this is looking at when Trump looked to overturn the results from the 2020 election, specifically in the state of Georgia, where two recounts confirmed that Joe Biden had narrowly won. And on January 2nd, Trump called Georgia's Secretary of State and urged him to, quote unquote, find about 11,000 votes for Trump.
Allegedly
called,
yes.
Of course. And the charges that he is looking at for that is solicitation to commit election fraud, conspiracy to commit election fraud, intentional interference with performance of election duties, interference with primaries and elections, false statements, perjury, influencing witnesses, racketeer influenced in corporate organizations.
All right. So if you have an opinion on this, you can go ahead and get in the queue. 877-943-9673. 877-943-9673. Give us a call now with any legal question, but especially if you have an opinion on this sort of weaponization of the legal process. And that's really what we're talking about today, Lexi, is not so much the politics of it, but sort of the legal aspect. So I guess a lot of people, when a president gets impeached, you think, oh my gosh, they're out of office. But impeaching a president doesn't remove them from office. There is a chasm between being impeached versus the Senate voting to remove you from office. And it's similar here, because speak to kind of the standard, because what happened here is President Trump wasn't convicted of anything. He was indicted. And maybe speak to what that standard is and how lofty or not lofty that standard is.
Yeah, so an indictment is essentially a formal accusation, but it's not a conviction. Is an accusation of a crime affirmed by a grand jury and presented by it to a court for the trial of the accused. So unlike a criminal trial where a jury would normally have to reach a unanimous verdict, a grand jury can issue an indictment with just a majority. This is essentially saying that it's more of a one-sided argument, which leads defense attorneys to sort of minimize indictments and argue that prosecutors can easily persuade jurors. It's essentially only looking at one side, I guess.
So to get an indictment, you hear nothing from the defense. You hear only the best evidence from one side, and you don't need unanimity. You just need a majority to indict. So it's a pretty low standard, it sounds like, to get an indictment. Now, one of the, in our research, and I was doing some follow-up research, and again, Becky was helping out and sent me a TikTok that we just simply could not play on the air. It would have taken way too long to edit. But the point being made in this was, now that President Trump has been sued and is being charged, rather, I should say, not sued, he has subpoena power to defend himself. So he has a chance to bring his case in open court and subpoena the records that he believes will show fraud. Now, Lexi, I'll just ask you personally, what do you think the chances are he can produce some evidence that there was any fraud?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure.
Right. It's going to be tough. But let's say with this power, he gets to air his side of the story. Do you think that maybe charging him in this sort of realm of using the legal system as a weaponization of politics, was it really the wisest move to give him the ability to subpoena people and records to make his case that there was, in fact, fraud in the election?
It may have not been the best idea, in my opinion.
Because if he shows, think about this. He's fighting for his life. He's going to mount every defense. And if he mounts some sort of defense that shows there was a shred of fraud, that seems to me like it might be a viable defense for his position. I don't know. But I think it's going to be, for me, it feels like the indictments have opened Pandora's box. It's not closing any issues. And I think it's sort of going to give this venue for political theater. Like we said all along in this process, it is going to put on this controversy that the country has never seen before and basically make it public and draw all these facts out. And I don't think it's going to be quick. I think the election in 2024 will have come and gone by the time this is concluded. And we were in your research, you actually found out if President Trump is reelected in 2024, what does he now have the option of doing?
He has the ability to essentially, I don't want to say erase,
pardon
his charges.
So pardoning himself.
Federal charges.
Right, his federal charges. That's a great distinction, Lexi, because he cannot pardon the state charges necessarily. I think the governor of the state would have to.
New York.
In New York would have to do that. So at the end of the day, he gets the power position back day one. Pardoning yourself seems pretty simple. So it's going to be interesting to watch this unfold. But nevertheless, the lesson here is regarding the indictment process. It's not a conviction, folks. It's not proven beyond a reasonable doubt. It's saying that they think there is evidence that a likely there was a crime committed. And now they will go do all the discovery through subpoenas and depositions and get everything. And then both sides will make their case. So it's going to be interesting to watch this continue to unfold. Again, the number to be part of the show, 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673. And I forget which poll it was, if it was Washington Post, Politico, one of those. They continue to show that Trump is by far the front runner in the Republican nominees. A guy now who has been indicted, as you pointed out, Lexi, 4 times, is leading the Republican nominees. And that is just breathtaking to me. So 877-943-9673. All right, let's go to Longboat Key and let's talk to Carrie. Carrie, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Morning.
Good morning.
My question is, it used to be called the Lady Bird deed.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm trying to see is there another or a better tool to use for leaving a child your home that would save more taxes?
Well, I don't know about saving more taxes, but I think putting the property in the trust is probably the simplest way to go. And I'll demonstrate the advantages over a ladybird. So if you ladybird the property to someone, for those of you not familiar with ladybird deeds, by the way, when you own a property entirely in your name, it's called owning it in fee simple absolute. You own the entire thing. Ladybird, you break it into 2 pieces, but it's 2 pieces divided across the plane of time. You own the life estate. You give the remainder interest to someone else, say a son, for instance. Okay. So now you own the property with your son owning a vested remainder interest. So when you die, he gets the property. Problem number 1 is you may not die right away, Carrie. It may be a situation where you become incompetent because of dementia, Alzheimer's, you have an auto accident, you're in a coma. The son doesn't get the transfer of the property until you actually pass, so he doesn't gain that control. I think with the trust, if the property's in the trust, now your son has access upon your incapacitation to take over, manage the property, protect the property as successor trustee of your trust. Additionally, I think with the trust, you get the benefit of contingency planning. So where on the deed you say, I leave it to my son under a vested remainder interest, it doesn't say what happens if your son were to die. And I think that can be particularly dangerous. So I think in the trust, you would say if to my son, and then if my son's not living, to my grandchildren or someone else. So I think because of the incapacity advantages and the contingency fee or contingency advantages, I think you would go with the trust over a traditional ladybird deed. But we do both. It's whatever the client wants.
And do you have locations? Where are your locations?
So I've got a Sarasota location. I have Sun City Center. So yeah, probably Sarasota would be closest to you, I'm guessing.
Very good.
All right. Carrie, what station are you listening on down there in Longboat Key?
It's the Bone.
All right. Well, we appreciate you, Carrie. Have a great Saturday, okay?
Thank you. I'll be giving you a call.
All right. I'll look forward to it. All righty. And for Carrie and anybody else out there, the office number again, 877-754-6764. Again, your toll-free office line to schedule in Sarasota, Sun City Center, and Clearwater. And again, I can't thank you listeners enough. The reason we have a Sarasota office is this radio show. And the reason we've had to add more appointment slots in Sun City Center is this radio show. So again, thank you all you listeners out there who listen so faithfully. Tell your friends about us because it is working and the show is spreading in popularity like crazy, like nothing I could ever possibly imagine. 877-943-9673. That's your toll-free number to be part of the show. But to call the office and schedule your appointment, 877-754-6764. You can also submit a request directly through the website for an appointment. That's attorneypatricksmith.com. Again, 877-943-9673 to be part of today's show. Carrie hanging up does open up a line. So if you've been trying to get in, give it a shot now. Probably get in. 877-943-9673. All right, let's go to Brandon and let's talk to James. James, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Hi. Yes, my question is, I have property both in West Virginia and here in Florida, and I was considering on a trust.
I believe you, James. Are you a resident of West Virginia or are you a resident of Florida?
Florida.
So what you would typically do is, first of all, we'll give you a complimentary consultation, James, where you can come in the privacy of the office. We can go over some of the more intimate financial details about you and your family. But typically what we
Okay.
see here is if you create a trust, you anchor it here in Florida because you're a Florida resident, we'll drop the Florida property in your Florida trust, treating it very carefully, especially if it's your homestead property. In addition to that, then we will give you the instructions that you will need to carry to a licensed West Virginia attorney to get that property funded into the Florida trust. And once that West Virginia attorney has drafted all of it, just as a courtesy to you and our brother or sister attorney in West Virginia, we will help you execute, witness, notarize that document. But it has to be drafted and created, in my opinion, by a licensed West Virginia attorney.
Okay. Okay. And I have a home business that, like, I'm a independent contractor and very successful at it. And I want to put that in trust also.
Is it an LLC or an S Corp, C Corp? What kind of entity?
It's LLC.
All right. So bring me your corporate record. You got your operating agreement, your bylaws, your corporate minutes, your membership certificates. Bring that book in with you. And James, I'll walk you through the steps. It's pretty simple.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
James, what station are you listening on down there in Brandon?
860.
860, the answer. We appreciate you. Have a great day, James.
You too. Thanks.
All right. And there was one question I was going to ask James, if he was Team Hatfield or Team McCoy, because that's up in West Virginia. Those of you from West Virginia get that joke. 877-943-9673. That's your live and local number to be part of the show. 877-943-9673. While the next call is getting queued up, Yumiko, do you have our bad legal advice in TikTok news? All right. Get that queued up. So this, again, is another contribution from my senior paralegal, Becky, who sent this one to me. And it's a gem. It's a doozy. And we actually had to make sure we edited it. So I think we've got it edited so we don't have any run-ins with the FCC. We're good, Yumiko. Great. All right. So you'll figure it out pretty quickly what this bad legal advice is about. And then I'll circle back around and kind of give you the correct analysis. So Yumiko, whenever you're ready.
Okay, I don't know who needs to hear this, and I don't care if anybody feels some type of way about it, but I'm going to put that out there. Did you know that if you bury a loved one in your backyard, that your house now is zoned as a cemetery, and you no longer owe property taxes, as well as you're no longer part of any HOA or any government anything. Your house is a write-off. It's tax-free on any upgrades to your house, and they can never take your house after that. Generational wealth. It doesn't matter if you default on your mortgage or anything like that. They can never take your house from you, ever. They can't take it from your kids. They can never take it. So think about this. Back in the...
All right. So put down the shovels, first of all, for those of you who got really excited with that clip. The best lies are the ones that are buried in truth and have just a little bit of truth to them. So according to Florida statute 497.260, you may actually use your home for burial, so long as it meets a couple of conditions. Number one, it has to be less than 2 acres. And additionally, you're not allowed to sell the plots. So that's issue number one, the legality of it. But you should, and this is the caveat that our non-lawyer friend there, I think it was courtesy of a Bell Blake account, if I'm not mistaken, failed to give you, was you got to check your city ordinances, your local county and city ordinances on this as well, regardless of what the state statute. This does fall within their state and city, county level of ability of regulation. So you want to check on that. In addition to that, the part that she stated about the exemption, the tax exempt status, to get that tax exempt status, again, you got to check with the local rules, but the property has to be exclusively for burial. So you can't live on it. So I think there's some confusion there. And that apparently is going around. And again, a special thank you to TikTok for giving us a treasure trove of bad legal advice. So that is your TikTok bad legal advice analysis of the week. 877-943-9673 to be part of the show. The phone lines are jammed, and we're going to go next to William in Bradenton. William, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm great, William. How are you?
Pretty good. I have a question. It's very simple. Why is it that ex-President Trump has gotten away with all this nonsense that he's been going to, as he's gone through with all these alleged lies, thousands of them? Why is it that, if it was a like for example, me saying some of the things that he has done and what have you. How come nobody's nailed him before this?
Well, it's because of something called due process. And it's the
Oh,
same due process that you and I would get. So it's no difference between us and a president. The only difference here is if he gets elected again, he can pardon himself.
I know that's the thing that's the kick around it. You know, it's sort of unfair, but well, we live in a society that allows that. So all about this.
Well, I appreciate you calling in, William. What station are you listening on?
The Bone.
All right. Well, and so to go back to your question, I mean, you don't want to live in a country where someone can be convicted on an indictment level of standard. I mean, if that was the level to convict someone, it would be kind of a rogue state. I mean, it would be. It's
course,
not, and it's
of
not the
course.
America that any of us want to live in. So they want their due process. But I'm just wondering how the prosecutors here weighed that analysis when they said they certainly had to have realized if they bring these charges, then they're giving him the opportunity to mount his defense. And that is going to be, at a minimum, massive political theater.
Is this just a case of as they say, it's politics? You know,
Literally. I mean, yeah, it's not even a metaphor. It's politics. So,
yeah.
William, we appreciate you calling in, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday, okay?
I thank you so much for your time.
You're
Good day,
welcome.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.
877-943-9673. This is Attorney Patrick Smith, your host of the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. We're with you for another 10 minutes or so. If you want to reach me at the office during the week, by the way, 877-754-6764 to schedule your complimentary estate planning consultation. By the way, don't let me forget, we do have our Indian Rocks Beach Baptist Wills and Trust Seminar coming up on Wednesday, August 16th at 6:30 p.m. at Smiley's, sponsored by the Indian Rocks Foundation. For more information, you can check out indianrocks.org and check out time and location information. But again, that's going to be Wednesday, August 16th, 6:30 p.m. at Smiley's there at Indian Rocks Baptist, sponsored by the Indian Rocks Foundation, featuring yours truly. So if you have a club or group that needs a speaker, I'm available for free bookings to come out and speak to your group if you have a particular topic you would like to hear us discuss. To talk to us today, 877-943-9673. All right, let's go to Clearwater and let's talk to Bill. Bill, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Well, hello. Yeah, I got a trust that we have already basically finalized everything with it. And we have found a substantial number of bonds that were intended to have been in the trust, and it looks like it's going to go to probate. So does that get long and drawn out?
Well, hold on. Let's back up a second. You said you established the trust. These are your bonds in your name?
No. This is a trust of parents. I'm not the executor, but I was listed in the trust.
Okay.
So the trust has already been basically paid out, but there are some bonds of substantial value that were not included, that were intended to be included. They didn't get around to it.
Do you currently have counsel representing you, Bill?
Well, there was the attorneys that put together the trust.
And they're now representing you as a beneficiary of the trust?
Well, probably there's going to be a probate lawyer hired in some fashion.
So
yeah.
Have you hired an attorney yet?
No,
okay.
The executor has not, that I know of.
All right, I just wanted to make sure because there's rules about answering if you already have counsel, Bill. So I think the short answer is if the bonds were not funded into the trust, then and they're in the name of the decedent with no named beneficiary, I think I think that sounds like a probate asset. How much do the bonds total?
Well, we're close to $100K.
Yeah, so you're over the exemption amount for summary administration. That would be a formal probate. And when was the date of death? There is one loophole. If it's been more than 2 years since the date of death, you may be able to still do a summary. So when did the decedent pass?
Oh, we're just past that, I think.
Just past 2 years?
I think.
So there's light at the end of the tunnel. You can still possibly do a summary then. That's a good thing. So just make sure that option gets discussed with the attorney with whom you meet. And it sounds like it may be a probate, but at least it's going to be a summary probate, which is a little faster, cheaper.
Some ranch.
Yeah.
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 Just to show where all the other assets were pointed. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully there's a
That's
pour over
excellent.
will that just leaves it to the trust, and that'll get you guys squared away. What station are you listening on, Bill?
860.
860 the answer. All right. Bill, we appreciate you calling in. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, okay?
All righty, you too.
Yes, sir. All righty, 877-943-9673. That's your live and local number to be part of the show. 877-943-9673. I'm your host, Attorney Patrick Smith. Let's go back to Clearwater. We're going to talk to Glenn this time. Glenn, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, quick question. So I have a child support case coming up. It's been a horrible experience. My son is 17. I was working. I got laid off, so it put me in arrears, maybe $300-400.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to take it to court and try to up my child support for the last year until he turns 18.
Mm-hmm.
Can I request a public defender for a child support case?
Well, it doesn't sound like it's a criminal charge. It sounds like it's a civil matter involving family law. Have they charged you criminally with something?
No, I haven't been charged with anything. They just want to raise, my ex wants to raise my child support for that last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of opening Pandora's box. I don't do family law, but if you call me at the office next week, Glenn, I'll give you a referral to a couple family law attorneys you can sit down and chat with. But oftentimes when, family law attorneys are discussing this with their clients and they're considering petitioning for modification, they give their client the caveat that when you ask that former spouse to modify, the former spouse can respond with, yeah, I agree we need to modify, but I want to change it this way. So there's always, the sleeping dog's lie analogy where you say, maybe it's better just to leave it like it is. And it sounds like your former spouse either didn't have that conversation with their counsel or did and said it's worth the chance to try to get it modified. Did something change?
Well, I worked for the county, but got laid off, and I found another job, which I make more money.
Yeah.
So
that's what changed. So yeah, just give me a call at the office next week. I'll put you in touch with a couple family law attorneys, Glenn, and they should give you a consultation to kind of walk you through what your options are and answer all your questions.
Okay. What's your office number?
877-754-6764.
6764. Great. I appreciate it.
All righty, Glenn. Have a great day. What station are you listening on up there in Clearwater?
Real Raw Radio 102.5.
Oh my gosh, you just gave them a beautiful tag. They're going to ISO that.
Yeah.
Have a great day, Glenn.
You too, bye.
All right, bye-bye. All righty, 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673. All right, next we're going to go to my home county, Imperial Polk County. Let's go to Matthew in Lakeland. Matthew, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, Matthew, how can I help?
Yeah, my mother-in-law passed away just recently, and she didn't have a will, and we're trying to figure out exactly what's going to go on. Her family, she had some property in her name, and the family's trying to get it back into someone else's name in the meantime, with a power of attorney. Is that legal?
Well, power of attorneys are void upon death, so I don't think that's going to work. But if you guys don't have counsel, just give me a call at the office next week, and I have an office there in Polk County, and we'll be happy to help you get squared away on that. But I'm sorry about your mother-in-law. I mean, that's terrible. I'll say a prayer for you and your wife.
All right, sir. Thank you very much.
Are you listening on 90.3?
No, on the bone.
On the bone? All right, another bone listener.
Yes, sir.
Boy, the bone is rolling today. All right, so Matthew, we appreciate you. Enjoy Polk County, okay?
All right, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. 877-943-9673. That's your live and local number. And we have a very special good luck wish to give out to someone in studio. So, Lexi, do you want to tell everyone what you will be doing next Friday and why we're wishing you good luck?
So next Friday, I'm going to be taking my law school admissions test for the first time.
So your practice exams are exactly where you want them to be.
Yes.
You're peaking at just the right time, and you'll have results when?
At the end of August.
So we'll have that's pretty fast. So you have to call in with your results after you take it. But everyone, let's say a special prayer and send Lexi positive vibes next Friday while she's taking her law school admissions test. And then after that, once you get your score, we have to do a like a countdown to Lexi picking a law school.
Right.
And we'll have to kind of do like a top 10 list and go from there. So but anyway, good luck, Lexi. We're sure you're going to crush it.
Thank you.
All righty. So, boy, that was an action-packed show. That's a fast hour, Yumiko. It goes by. Does it go by quickly in your booth too?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. All right. So you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
Good. That makes me happy. All right. 877-943-9673. That's your live and local number for next week. So write that number down and tell all your friends, like you've been doing, Attorney Patrick Smith Show Nation, and encourage them. Call in. You have a legal question. We're here every Saturday morning just to help you. So we're happy to help. And in between, we do like we did today. We discuss topical news, legal items, and bad legal advice given on social media. Boy, is that segment just it's so fertile with material. We're going to have that going on for a long time. 877-943-9673. That's your toll-free number for next week's broadcast. 877-943-9673. If you want to watch the show on Facebook, you can do so. I see lots of you now doing so. You can check us out, Attorney Patrick Smith on Facebook. You can watch the show live, or you can stream it over Instagram at The Attorney Patrick Smith Show. To reach me at the law office, you can dial 877-754-6764 for Sarasota, Sun City Center, Clearwater, any of our Polk County location, 877-754-6764. Shoot me an email, patrick@attorneypatricksmith.com, or check out the website with prior radio show broadcast available free of charge, attorneypatricksmith.com. Everyone, we'll be right back with you next week. Stay safe, God bless, and go Gators.
The preceding was sponsored by the law offices of Patrick L. Smith. W282CI Tampa, W271CY Lakeland, W262CP Bayonet Point.
Online at letstalkfaith.com or listen on TuneIn and Odyssey.
Strength between Sundays. This is your daily word on Faith Talk Tampa.
We should do all things with eternity in view, not just for our sake, but for the